December 7th, 1944. Bridgeport, Connecticut. The factory floor goes silent. 73 women walked in for their shift that morning. By dawn, only 7 walked out alive. This isn't a battle you've heard about. No medals were given. No memorials built. But what happened in those 18 hours would shake the very foundation of America's war machine and change how we fight wars forever. This is the story they never wanted you to know. World War II. Everyone knows the soldiers, the sailors, the pilots, young men storming beaches, fighting in jungles, dying in the snow. But there's another army, an army of women, invisible, forgotten, working in the shadows of the home front, building the weapons that would win the war. By 1944, over 6 million American women had entered the workforce. They weren't just secretaries or nurses anymore. They were welders, riveters, machinists, and chemists. They worked with their hands covered in grease and oil. They breathed in toxic fumes. They operated machines that could tear a person apart in seconds. And in one factory in Bridgeport, Connecticut, they were making something deadly. Ammunition, not just bullets. High-explosive artillery shells. The kind that could obliterate a German tank. The kind that saved American lives on the front lines. But making them, that was a dance with death every single day. The Remington Arms Company factory in Bridgeport was one of the largest munitions plants in the United States. Massive, loud, dangerous. Inside, women worked shoulder to shoulder in 12-hour shifts, sometimes longer, filling shell casings with volatile chemicals, assembling fuses, packing gunpowder. One mistake, one spark, 1 second of distraction, and it could all go up in flames. December 7th, 1944. 3rd anniversary of Pearl Harbor. A cold Thursday morning. 73 women reported for duty in Building 14, the shell assembly wing. Most of them were young, early 20s. Some were mothers. Some were wives of soldiers fighting overseas. A few were teenagers who lied about their age to get hired. They wore canvas coveralls, headscarves, and steel-toed boots. No jewelry allowed. No metal hairpins. Nothing that could create a spark. The supervisor that morning was a woman named Margaret Hayes. Tough. Fair. She'd been working in munitions since 1942. She knew the risks. She'd seen accidents before. Small ones. Burns. Crushed fingers. But nothing like what was about to happen. The shift started at 6 a.m. The factory floor was a maze of conveyor belts, stamping presses, and chemical vats. The air smelled like sulfur and oil. The noise was deafening. Machines clanging. Steam hissing. Women shouting instructions over the roar. By 8 a.m., everything seemed normal. By 8:15 a.m., the world exploded. No one knows exactly what caused it. A faulty fuse. A chemical spill. A spark from a grinding wheel. But at 8:17 a.m., Building 14 erupted in a massive fireball. The blast was so powerful it shattered windows 3 miles away. The concussion knocked people off their feet in downtown Bridgeport. Mothers grabbed their children. Men thought the Germans had somehow bombed Connecticut. Air raid sirens started wailing across the city. Inside the factory, chaos. The explosion ripped through the assembly floor like a sledgehammer. Metal beams twisted. Concrete walls crumbled. Fire roared through the building, feeding on barrels of gunpowder, lakes of flammable chemicals, stacks of artillery shells. Women were thrown across the room. Some were crushed under falling debris. Others were engulfed in flames. The heat was so intense it melted steel. The smoke was thick, black, choking. You couldn't see. You couldn't breathe. You couldn't scream loud enough to be heard. Margaret Hayes was near the back of the floor when it happened. The blast threw her into a wall. Her shoulder shattered. Her ears rang. Blood poured from a gash on her forehead. But she got up. She had to, because women were dying all around her. Margaret stumbled through the smoke. She could barely see. The fire was spreading fast. Overhead, the ceiling groaned. Beams cracked. Any second, the whole building could collapse. She found a young woman pinned under a conveyor belt, screaming, crying, begging for help. Margaret grabbed her arms and pulled. The metal wouldn't budge. The flames were getting closer. The heat was unbearable. Margaret didn't give up. She braced her legs, ignored the pain in her shoulder, and pulled with everything she had. The woman came free. Margaret dragged her toward the exit, through the flames, over the rubble, past the bodies of women who didn't make it. Outside, the scene was apocalyptic. Smoke billowed into the sky. Firefighters raced toward the building. Ambulances lined the street. Survivors stumbled out, coughing, bleeding, their clothes burned and torn. Margaret counted them. 7. Only 7 women made it out alive. 66 were still inside. The fire burned for 18 hours. Firefighters couldn't stop it. The ammunition kept exploding. Secondary blasts rocked the building every few minutes. All they could do was contain it, keep it from spreading to other parts of the factory. By the time the flames were extinguished, Building 14 was gone. A blackened shell. A tomb. Rescue workers went in. What they found was horrific. Bodies burned beyond recognition. Some women had been vaporized by the heat. Others were found huddled together, arms around each other, trying to shield themselves from the flames. It was one of the deadliest industrial disasters in American history. But you've never heard of it. Why? Because the government buried it. This was 1944, the middle of the war. America needed ammunition. Factories were already struggling to keep up with demand. If word got out that a munitions plant had exploded, killing dozens of workers, it could cause panic. It could slow production. It could hurt morale. So the military stepped in. The story was suppressed. Newspapers were told not to publish details. Families of the victims were paid off, quietly. The official cause of the explosion was listed as accidental ignition during routine operations. No investigation. No accountability. No memorials. The women who died were erased from history. The 7 who survived were told to stay silent. And for decades, they did. Margaret Hayes never spoke publicly about that day. Not for 40 years. She carried the guilt. The survivor's guilt. She wondered why she lived when so many others didn't. She had nightmares. She'd wake up screaming, smelling smoke, hearing the screams of the women she couldn't save. The other 6 survivors felt the same. They scattered across the country after the war, tried to rebuild their lives. Some got married, had children, went to work in quieter, safer jobs. But the factory was always with them. In their dreams, in their scars, in the silence they were forced to keep. It wasn't until 1987, 43 years later, that the story finally came out. A historian researching wartime industrial accidents found a buried military report. It mentioned the Bridgeport explosion, the names of the victims, the cover-up. He tracked down Margaret Hayes. She was 71 years old, living alone in a small apartment in New Jersey. At first, she refused to talk. But then he told her something that changed her mind. Those women deserve to be remembered. Margaret agreed to an interview. She told him everything. The explosion, the fire, the bodies, the cover-up, the silence. Her story was published in a small historical journal. It didn't make national news, but it started something. Families of the victims began coming forward. They shared photos, letters, stories of mothers, daughters, sisters who went to work one morning and never came home. In 1995, a small memorial was erected in Bridgeport, a bronze plaque with 66 names. No grand ceremony, no politicians, just families, and the 7 survivors, 6 of whom were still alive. Margaret Hayes stood in front of that plaque and wept. She finally got to say goodbye. The women who died in Building 14 weren't soldiers. They didn't carry rifles. They didn't storm beaches or fly bombers. But they were warriors. They fought a different kind of war. A war of production, of sacrifice, of silent heroism. They gave their lives so that American soldiers could have the ammunition they needed to win. And for decades, no one knew their names. This is the cost of war that no one talks about. The invisible casualties, the forgotten heroes, the women who worked in the shadows, risking everything so that others could come home. Margaret Hayes passed away in 2003. She was 87 years old. In her final interview, She said something that still echoes today. We weren't heroes. We were just doing our jobs. But those 66 women, they should never be forgotten. They died for this country just as much as any soldier. She's right. They were heroes. And now, you know their story. If this story moved you, hit that like button. It helps more people discover these forgotten chapters of history. Drop a comment below. What surprised you most about this story? Did you know about the dangers women faced on the home front during World War II? And if you want more untold stories like this, real, raw, and emotional accounts of courage and sacrifice from World War II, subscribe to WWII Plus Vietnam History and smash that bell icon so you never miss an upload. We're bringing you the battles, the heroes, and the moments that changed everything. Thank you for watching. And thank you for remembering.